This list of our learning, the panacea before Shlema. We're going to start today the Chavches Samad Beis, in the middle of yesterday's Daf. So we'll start. Let's say 9 lines from the top. Amar Rav Safra. Amar Rav Safra. Rav Safra taught. Sleisei de Avram. The tefillah of Avram, the davening of Avram. The word sleisa means to daven. Tiskabel sleisa in the Belusain, except that tefillah that we always say after Shemesh. The davening of Avram, mechimashchere kaislei, is when the wall gets dark. Now, if you have a wall that's facing the east, so the sun rises in the east, so it's always going to be bright from sunrise until midday. So it's going to start to darken that wall after midday. So immediately at noon, it's already not going to have the rays shining on it. It's going to be straight on top. So Avram would daven mincha, when the wall would darken. Now the obvious question here is that Avram daven shachris? Where are you getting that Avram daven mincha? Mincha wasn't instituted until Yitzchak, right? Okay, it's a big discussion here. Take a look on the bottom, Tesis Yeshanim. You have this Tesis Yeshanim. He says, 1 second. We had a Gemara Brachas, Yitzchak Tikkun Tfilas Mincha. Yitzchak L'soch Basadeh Lifnei Serev, right? It's towards evening. That was Yitzchak. So he gives us his first answer that, Yitzchak instituted it, but Avram was still alive. And so Avram started to daven Mincha after Yitzchak instituted it. He says this pshat, he says, Kach Perish Rabbeinu Tam. Another pshat, he says, is that Avram also davened mincha, but he didn't institute it, that his family should daven. He just davened privately. Yeah, there is another pshat I see over here. Yeah. They all davened all the tefillas. It just happens to mention, I guess, but who instituted it for everyone else? That's how we would have to learn according to there's a commentary on the side from the Aruch. Okay, whatever the case is, this is an interesting Gemara that Avram daven mincha. When did he daven mincha at exactly this manner? Good morning. Pass him Gemara. Then he can pick the. Okay. Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says, Anan mi Avram nekim nigmar. What are we going to do? You're going to learn from Avram that you have to daven mincha, that you daven mincha right away in the afternoon. So what's the problem? Avram did everything right away. On the side, there's also a Perish Aruch. We don't learn from before Matan Torah. That's what Gemara is asking. Possibly that's the question. Amar Rava says to Rav Yosef, Tana Gamar me Avram, why are you making a big deal that we can't learn from Avram? We have other Mishnayos or Brises where we did learn from Avram. And you're saying, no, don't bring a raya from Avram. It's not authoritative. The Tanya was taught in a Brisa. On the 8th day, circumcise the flesh of his foreskin. You see that you can do a bris the whole day. It could be in the afternoon also, the bris. But the zaris, they translate zaris. It's a good translation for zaris. Someone that works with alacrity. I don't know what it I'm sorry? Yeah, teaser hair is usually like caution. This is Zariz means Zrizus means like swift. So Zrizim Akdim Limitzvahs, but it's the Zrizim, those that are swift, they do the mitzvah early. Now, which pasuk it's quoting over here? Vayashkim Avram Baiker. Gemara says Vayachavish, but that's talking about the Akedah when he woke up early. The other one is Vayashkim Avram Baiker Tzigazin Elamakim Asher Amad Shem Espnei Hashem. That's where he davened. He looked out of by Sidon. Okay, so whatever the case is, we learn from Avram. So what are you telling me that I can't learn from Avram? You see that you're supposed to do a bris early in the morning. Yeah, there's a whole discussion. If you have a bigger crowd in the afternoon, should you still do the bris early? Which one overweighs the other one? Barevam Hadras Mela, bigger crowd, or Zuzim Makim the Mitzvah? Talking about if the smaller crowd will have the same food as the bigger crowd. Same. Okay. Elama Rava. So Rava says, Rabbi Yosef Akakashale. No, Rabbi Yosef had a different question. The Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. Chal Arbi Pesach and Erev Shabbos. If Erev Pesach is on Erev Shabbos, so what happens is the Korban Pesach is brought on Erev Pesach. Now, when is it roasted? So it's roasted Erev Pesach also. And the night of Pesach, you can continue roasting it. You take it off when you need to eat it. But if that night is Shabbos, then it needs to be all roasted on Erev Pesach. So which means you need to get it in, all the sacrifices in the afternoon. There's a very busy afternoon, Erev Pesach. The Korban Pesach is brought after the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. That means they need to bring the Korban Tamid as early as possible. When do they bring it? Nishchat b'sheish mechza, v'kar b'sheva mechza. It was slaughtered, the Korban Tamid was slaughtered at 6.5 hours into the day. That means a half hour after noon, after Chatzos. The Gemara is asking, why don't you shech the half hour earlier? Why do you have to wait 6.5 hours? Shech it immediately at the 6th hour, which is the beginning of the 7th, right? 12:01, and you gain a half hour there. That's what Rabbi Yosef is asking. So the Gemara says, "My kushya." What's the question? Maybe the wall. Let's see. If the wall went like this, it was like a triangle on a slope and a slant. So then when the sun is straight in the middle, it's still going to be shining on each of the sides because the sides have that surface. So it needs to go a little bit further. So that's that extra half hour. He's saying like this, Avram had a straight wall. The Beis Hamikdash didn't have it. You're asking that Avram davened when the wall was dark, when the wall darkened. He said, yeah, because he had a perfectly straight wall. In the Beis Hamikdash, the wall isn't perfectly straight. You have to wait an extra half hour. Inami, another pshat. Avram, the Stagninus Gadela is a believer. Avram was an expert in astronomy, and he could tell exactly when it was noon. Rashi quotes the Gemara Baba Basra that all of the kings would come to him to ask him about their mazolis, the astrology. Yeah, Avram knew all the astrology. I think what the Gemara means is that also he was an expert because he was an elder that was in yeshiva and he knew how to tell the time perfectly. Rab Chama Bar Chanina, like Parshi Yeshiva Imam, all the days of our forefathers in our history, they never stopped studying with the people of the book, right? Let's go through this. Hayu b'Mitzrayim, they were in Egypt. Yeshiva Imam, they were busy learning. Shenemar leich basafta siknei Yisrael. By the way, yeshiva means to sit, but that's associated with learning. Yeah, well, usually when you learn, you said. Usually when you learn, you said. You can learn standing up also, but the word mesifta is also means yeshiva. Yoshav, Rasav, right? The tuck and the shin. It's the same thing. Dr. Stein, you with me on that? The tuck and the shin, mesifta. Okay. Shenamar, as it says, Lechlas after Sikni Yisrael, go and gather the elders of the Jewish people. Hayaba Midbar, they're in the desert. Yeshiva Imam. They were studying. Shenamar, Esfali Shiva Mishmi Zikni Yisrael, gather me the 70 elders. What we're doing is when we say the word zaken, we're referring to scholarship, to study. So to gather the elders, to gather the 70 elders, that means that there was a yeshiva there. They were studying. Avraham Avinu zaken v'yeshiva. Avraham was an elder and he was sitting and studying. Shnemar Avraham zaken baba yamim. It says the word zaken. Zaken means zeh kana chachma. He was acquired something. We the same, huh? Oh, Avraham zaken baba yamim, yeah. Yitzchak Avinu zaken v'yeshiva. Yitzchak was an elder, he was in yeshiva. Shnemar v'yiki zaken Yitzchak, when Yitzchak was old. Yaakov Avinu zaken v'yeshiva. Yaakov also, Shnemar v'ein Yisrael kavdim zaken. Yeah, we have this in our blood already. It's in our DNA, if it works like that. Isn't the Dr. Stein, there's a Weissman barrier in the DNA. But not everything that you do gets passed down to the kids. Okay, Eliezer Eved Avram Zaken V'Yeshiva. Even Eliezer was just in the household, and he already was picked that up. He was Zaken V'Yeshiva. Shenemar V'Yemer Avram Alavdei Zakan Beis HaMeshel B'Chol HaShalai. Amar Abelazar Shemeshel B'Teres Rabbi. Avram says to his servant, the Zakan Beisai, the elder of his household. What does that mean, the elder? That means that he was studying that ruled over everything that was his, that was in charge. Rabbi Elazar says that Shemeshel B'Teres Rabbi. He was in charge of his master's teachings. Sounds like he was the typist. Who domestic Eliezer? Amar Rabbi Elazar Shadei Lamashkim B'Teres Rabbi Lachirim. It says Damascus. Eliezer came from Damascus. The Gemara learns that what does the word Damascus mean? Doila umashke. Doila means to draw water, and mashke means to pour water, to serve the water. That means he was from the well springs of Avram, the teachings of Avram. He would pour to others. So he was disseminating the Torah. Someone told me recently. They asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky, a wealthy person. He said, is he allowed to have a fancy car because he's violating Lifnei Iver? Because other people are going to look at his car and they're going to be jealous. So he's causing them to be jealous. So maybe he shouldn't have a fancy car. So Reb Chaim Kanievsky said, how many Masechtas do you know? So he said, none. He says, no one's jealous of you. Yeah. Okay. We're talking about Zekana by the Zakin, that he acquired something. So it doesn't say what he acquired, but the Pashta says he acquired something. He acquired what's that to acquire? Torah. What else? Everything else is nothing. Okay. Amar Rav taught. Kim Avram Avinu Kol Torah Kula. Avram Avinu kept the whole Torah. We've heard this before, right? Shnemar Ikev Asher Shama Avram B'Koili. Because Avram listened to my voice. He kept the Torah. Avram was before the Torah. The girl learns, I didn't see this inside, but I was told that the girl learns that Avram was a master scientist. And from the rules of science, he was able to understand what rules the humans should have. There are different types of rules. There's scientific rules and then there's rules that we're supposed to follow. It's a different type of rule, but he understood that if this is what the Eibishter wants, he was able to see all the rules of the Torah in the world. Amalei Rav Simi Bar Chiel Rav. Rav Simi Bar Chia says to Rav, mitzvahs. How do you know he kept the whole Torah? Maybe just kept the 7 Noahide laws. Says, 1 second, but he had a bris. Okay, so the Sheva mitzvahs, yeah, they did a Mila also. You have to read further. It says he kept my commandments and my Torah. It has to be everything. Amar Rava Bitema Rabashi Kim Avram Avinu Afilu Erev Tavshilin. Avram Avinu even kept the Erev Tavshilin. Now, Erev Tavshilin is what you do to allow you to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos. So, and it's a rabbinic law. It's not a. What we're saying is that Avram not only kept the written Torah, but he kept even the rabbinic law. Shenemar Teresai Achas Teresha B'Ksav Achas Teresha B'Al Peh. Because Teresai would be a plural. Teresi would be a singular. Teresai would be a plural. So, see that he kept the Teresha B'Ksav and the Teresha B'Al Peh. Yeah, there's another gra somewhere that says that it's not really. It wasn't supposed to be Erev Tavshilin. It's supposed to be Erev Tchumen. And the source was Akiv, the heel, because the Erev Tchumen meant that you weren't supposed to walk outside the city. Very interesting Tesis Yeshanim on the bottom, the last Tesis Yeshanim of the page. He says, Lo yada Rebbe amay nakat hach mitzvah. It says, my teacher didn't know why that was the chosen mitzvah that to say that Avraham Avinu kept. He even kept that mitzvah. I mean, you could have said he kept, I don't know, Chabad wool tzitzis. They could have said anything. I'm sorry? He did Mila also, but then read a little further. Then he also kept Erev Tavshilin. The question is, that's the extreme. But the question is, why did he make the Erev Tavshilin the extreme case? Netilas Yadayim, Chanukah, I don't know. Okay, in the Achrayim, there's a big discussion about how they were able to keep the whole Torah when there's certain problems.
Yeah, like one getting more people.
Like
community offering.
Yeah. So Yoel's asking, how would they do things that would be like community offerings? How was he able to do those things? The Achrayim discuss more things like, how was he able to keep Shabbos? If he's a non-Jew, he's not allowed to keep Shabbos.
That's the question. What do you do?
So if he's considered a Jew, then fine, but it's not so clear that he was considered a Jew. Could be, the Gemara is suggesting that he was a Ben Naya. Right, that would be a proof. I remember I was at a shiur in Montreal, Rabbi Hirschberg was teaching us. And he told us, he showed it to us in a Shita Mekubetzes. Later on I saw it's the Hafla. It says, that I saw it in Hafla, Shita Mekubetzes much earlier, that it's possible to answer that question by saying that for a Jew, the day starts by night and it continues. So we start Friday night. For a non-Jew, the day starts in the morning and continues through the following night. So what Avraham Avinu would do was he would keep Shabbos from Friday night through Shabbos. And Motzei Shabbos, he would do work, do malacha. So as a Jew, he kept Shabbos. As a non-Jew, he didn't. Whichever way you look at him, he was correct. The other question that they ask is, why didn't he do the bris right away? Why didn't he do the bris right away? Why do you have to wait? If he really kept the whole Torah, so maybe you can learn that he kept the whole Torah throughout his life. At the end, he kept the Torah. He was never instructed in Erev Tavshilin either, but he kept Erev Tavshilin. But Ramesh is saying that he wasn't instructed. One of the answers that they give is that a bris is you need two parties. It's a covenant. So just to do the bris on your own without the other party, it's a covenant between us and Hashem. So that's not going to work. There's other interpretations, other famous briskara that until you're commanded to do the bris, he wasn't an Arel. You have to cut off the Arla. It wasn't considered an Arla until he was commanded. Yeah, also, it's a mitzvah that you can only do once. So it's better to do it when you're commanded than not commanded. Other mitzvahs you can do every day, you do or whatever, but this you can only do what you can't. You don't have a second chance. Okay. Masi ben Shmuel Aimer v'chulu v'oimerheim. What we learned here was that the person that was looking out would say bar kai. That means it's light. Masi ben Shmuel says he would say heyer pnei kol hamizrach ad shebechevron. He would say that it's light until the whole east is light until Chevron, and then he would say hein, and he would say yes. Now the question is, where's the conversation there? Who would say what? He would say it's light until Chevron, and then he would say yes, but there's too many pronouns there. We don't know who's the he, right? So man amar hein, who's the one the Gemara asks? Who's the one that says yes? If you say it's the fellow that's standing on the roof, that's looking out to see if it's getting light. That's a parable. He's dreaming and he's giving the interpretation also. That means he's asking the question and answering. This guy said, he talked to himself. How's it going? Oh, it's Baruch Hashem, it's going great. We'd like to have a conversation. They said, why do you talk to yourself? He says, oh, I like to talk to intelligent people. So Ella, so what's he doing? He's asking a question, he's answering it. Ella, you're gonna run out. Ella hachtekaya igra. I'm sorry. Ella hachtekaya ara. The one that's on the ground is saying yes. Is it light until Chevron? And the fellow on the ground says yes. It says 1 second. Yoda. He doesn't know if it's light. That's why the guy went up. He's still on the ground. I can tell you both ways how it's working, but we have to just switch the tone of what's the question here. If you want, you can say that the one that said yes is on the roof. Amar iyu heyer pnei kol hamizrach. The fellow on the roof says it's light until the east. And now the one on the ground says ad shebechevron, until Chevron. He says yes. The guy on the roof says yes. He answered the question. Yeah, you break it up and you turn the second part into a question. You can do it the other way. It's on the ground. Amar Iyo, the fellow on the ground says, Heyer pnei kol hamizrach. Is the whole east? They're asking, is the whole east lit up? Are you asking if it's lit until Chevron? Is that what you mean by the whole east? They say yes. Okay, so it's the fellow on the ground that said yes. Okay, why did they need to do this? They said, the Mishnah said, because one time they made a mistake. They thought it was light. It was really the moonlight. They ended up that they shechted the tamid, they had to burn it, they shechted it too early. The Gemara says, is it interchangeable, the moonlight and sunlight? So Batanya, Rabbi Aimer, Brisa, Rabbi says, you can't compare the ray of light, the column of light of the moon to the column of light of the sun. The light of the moon, it goes like a stick. The light of the sun spreads out, at least in the pictures. It spreads out like everywhere. And the moon just has a ray that's coming down. No, that's how they draw the pictures. So the picture of the moon, you see like a ray coming down from like a street lamp. In the sun, they always have it like Mashiach's coming. So, Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, it was taught in Yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel. We're asking, how could they mix this up? It's so obvious. It was taught there, it was a cloudy day. So therefore, the light of the moon was coming through different things. It was breaking up. So that's why it looked like maybe that was the light coming from the sun. So, Amar Papa Shmamina, the Papa says, we see from this, Yoma Deiva the Eva, cloudy day, Kula Shimsha is like a very sunny day. Because the sunlight breaks up, the moonlight breaks up. Well, the sunlight breaks up. We're not talking about the moon now. Now we jump to the sun. L'may nafkamina. What's the difference? What are you telling me? It says, well, they're telling you that if you want to do tan your to dry out the leather, you have to put it in the sun. You can put it in the shade as well. Another thing is another significance of this is that on Pesach, if you're making matzah, you can't knead the dough in the sun because it will rise too fast. What about if it's cloudy? So what we're learning here is that cloudy is exactly the same. Yeah, in Miami they say cloudy. Yeah, you still have to put on sunscreen. They could have said that also. And the Gemara could have answered that. Right. So apparently the radiation comes through the clouds, even though it doesn't look like it. Can you get burnt when you're like in the shade of a tree? Okay. Amar Rav Nachman says Zura the Shimsha Kashim Shimsha. We're going to go through some things here where it seems that secondhand smoke is worse than smoking. So what we're going to do, we're going to say secondary things are worse than the original. The shine of the sun is worse than the sun. Than directly the sun. What it means Zura the Shimsha means through the clouds. V'simanach dana dechala. If you want to like get a symbol for how this works, a bucket that has vinegar in it. When you make a little hole in it, in the bucket, the smell comes out. Which is stronger than if it was never enclosed inside the. Yeah, let's say it different. A coffee jar. When you open up the new jar of instant coffee, the smell comes out much more than if it was never closed inside a jar. Yeah, I think they spray something in it, so when you buy it, it's like, I don't know. But so here what we're saying is that a cloudy day, the sunshine that comes through is like more concentrated than if it would just be everywhere. Yeah, you have to be careful if you're ever looking at like telescopes and different things. I'm blind in a second. They always they put a plate. When they look at the sun, and they see it. You never look. You look at the reflection of the sun. They put a plate there, and then you see the sunspots. Shavrire the Shimsha, Kashim Shimsha. Okay, this is a blindness that comes from the sun. I'm not sure. There's two pshatim here. I think it means either going from a dark room to the sunlight or going from the sunlight into a dark room. That's worse than the sun. Simanach dilfa. And the siman for this is a drip. The siman I understand. I don't know exactly what the first part means. The drip is like this. If someone it's dripping on him, rain or there's a drip that's dripping on, it's very bothersome. But at the same time, he has no problem going swimming. So the drip, which is nothing, compared to jumping into the pool, it bothers him so much. Why should it bother you? Because you're ready to jump in the pool. But no. So it's odd, but that's how it is. The little bit is worse than the whole thing is. Yeah. Oh. Now, what does it say in the next piece after that? What's the next piece? The last piece on the page?
Constant dripping on one spot.
Yeah, right before that. Right before the constant dripping. Right before that. Is there a piece right before that? Shavrire the Shimsha. Shavrire is like a blindness of the sun.
No,
okay. What it means is that if someone looks at the sun through a small hole, through the hole in the clouds, it's worse than if he looks at the sun when it's totally open. Okay, we're on the top of Chavtes. Hirhuri Avera Kashim Avera. Thoughts of sin are worse than the sin. Yeah. So, what's Rashi's shot? The desire for women weakens a person more than if he actually sinned. And v'simana charecha de bisra. The way of symbolizing this is the smell from a barbecue. Oh boy. It smells so delicious. It makes such a desire when you eat it, though. It's not like, whatever. You get more excited.
No, don't forget the best part where you get that.
So what we're learning here is that the imagination is worse than the imagination creates a much worse desire, much stronger desire than the actual act. You drop the imagination, there's almost nothing left. Why is it kashim avera? There's different commentaries. Some say that there's no end to the imagination. That's why it weakens a person. Some say that it contaminates the person more because the act it contaminates the mind. That's basically. Shili the kaita kashim kaita. The end of the summer is worse than the summer. Talking about Elul is the end of the summer. The heat it's already so hot. So b'simanach tanur shagira. Way of remembering this is an oven that's been heated. It's been heated a bunch of times. You just throw a little bit of wood in, it's like right away flames up. So it's been so hot the whole summer. So the heat of the summer at the end, it's yeah. Yitzi says Labor Day is worse than Memorial Day. Ishta the sitva kasha midakaita. The fever of the winter is worse than the fever of the summer. The simanach tanura krira. A simon for this is a cold oven. It takes a lot of effort to get that oven hot, which means that he must be very sick if he has a fever in the winter. In the summer, if he has a fever, whatever, it's hot anyway. So it takes nothing to get a fever. But in the winter, you had to heat him up. Migmar ba'atika kashim mechadata. Okay, here's where it starts to get very personal. It's easier to learn new things than old things. Yeah. What it said, the way Rashi learns this. Yeah. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, he also says. If you learned it and then you forgot it, it's harder to review it than it would be to never learn it. That's what Rashi says. Others say that, let's say your bar mitzvah parsha and you made you learned it as a bar mitzvah bacher. Now you're older and now you want to do it with all the dikdukim of the shva and the shvanach. You want to get it like, it's very hard to relearn it. It's already, you've already trained it in there. It's easier to learn a new parsha than to learn the old one and with making corrections. No? Yeah, another thing that they say is that it says in Shulchan Aruch that you shouldn't teach the children on Shabbos something new. You should just do Chazara. Because of Einik Shabbos, and new things are hard for the children. It's hard for them. So the commentaries say it's exactly the opposite. No one likes to learn old things. The Gemara Daf Chavtes, Yoma Daf Chavtes. To do Chazar is much harder. It's got to be new things are easier. The Daf Yomi, you keep. I think the answer is that children love to do review. Adults don't like it. Children, they take out the book. Which book do you want to read tonight? Yeah. They take out that same Dr. Seuss book that they read every night. That's it. Yeah. That's because you're older. The Simanach Tina Bartina. What does this mean, Tina Bartina? If you want to make cement, so it's easier to use new clay, new mixture than to take old cement that you're trying to crush up and redo. That's very hard. Amar Rabavo, my time with the Rebbe. Rabavo says, what's this reason that Rebbe said that there's a difference between the sun and the moon? The sun spreads out. The ksiv, we have a pasuk Lametech al Yelas Shachar. Lametech is to the conductor of Ayelas Shachar. Ayelas could mean a star. Ayelas Shachar is the morning star. That's some translations. Ayelas Shachar could also mean an Ayala is a like gazelle. It's this animal, antlers. A hind. A hind. Is that what it's pronounced? A hind. A hind. Ma Ayala Zukanem Aktilis Lakana Lakan. Just like this hind, this gazelle. The horns break up and spread out. Also the morning, the sun rays in the morning break out. It spreads out. You see, that's the source for Rebbe. That the rays of the sun spread out. Amar Abzera, Esther la Ayala. Why is Esther compared to Ayala? Ayala is the hind, the deer, the gazelle. Leimalach. It's coming to tell you, Ma Ayala Rachmat Sar v'Chavival Baila Kol Shavashak Sharishayna. The Ayala, the hind, its womb is very narrow, so it's beloved to the husband always, like the first time, like she was never mated with. So after Esther is Kol Shavashak Sharishayna. Esther was beloved to Achashverosh, always like it was the first time, first marriage. They're just getting married. Okay, what does this have to do with Esther? The Medrash tells us that when Esther was on her way in to Achashverosh, so there was idols there. So the Shechina left her, the Ruach HaKodesh left her. So she said, Keli, Keli, Lama Saftani. That's in Psalm 22. Lametech Aliyel Shachar, Psalm 22. 22 or 21? 22. It's, so she says this psalm. So this psalm is associated with Esther. That's why we're doing this. Amar Abasi. Lamanim Shle Esther L'Shachar. Why is Esther compared to the dawn? Leimalach Ma Shachar Seif Kol Halayla. Just like the dawn is the end of the night. Af Esther Seif Kol HaNisim. Esther's the end of all the miracles, all the fantastic miracles. We have miracles every day, but the ones that splitting seas and all of that. Yeah. So, well, we write about the small miracles. 1 second. Chanukah. That was quite a miracle. It says Nitna Lichtev Kamrina. We're talking about the ones that are written in the Torah. Okay. The commentaries ask, it's a strange comparison. Esther is the end of all the miracles. She should not be the end of the night. She should be the end of the day. She should be twilight. It's making it look like miracles are dark, and no miracles. No miracles are light. It's weird.
The miracles come after her.
Yeah, but we're saying that Esther is the end, which means she's the dawn. Really, she's the dawn after all the darkness of the miracles? That's weird. They say like this, that when you need to see Hashem through fantastic miracles, that's darkness. When you see Hashem in everything, in nature, in Hashgacha Pratis, that's the light. That's when you start to see. That's why Esther's, you don't see, Esther's like the beginning of, you're seeing Hashgacha Pratis. There was no real miracle there. Well, she happened to be appointed. She was beautiful, and everything just worked out. It's exactly where, in the right place at the right time. That's the beginning of the life. That's when you see Hashem and everything. Okay, that's the Chassidus. That only works. This only works if Esther is supposed to be written down. The Gemara Megillah discusses if Esther is really supposed to be part of the Tanakh, canonized. Elamanda Mestalainit in the lift of Michael Maymar. So then what if it wasn't supposed to be written anyway? So what's going on over here? It says Mukam Laka Rabbi Yamin Bar Yafis. We can translate this slightly different, like Rabbi Yamin Bar Yafis. He was a Talmud, a student of Rabbi Yochanan. Over here, he was probably a younger student. So here he's going to be quoting Rabbi Lazar. Amar Rabbi Lazar. In the name of Amar Rabbi Yamin Bar Yafis, Amar Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Yamin Bar Yafis says the name of Rabbi Lazar. Lama Nimshlit Tlasin Shal Tzadikim Kayelas. Why is the prayers of the tzaddikim compared to a yelas, to this hind? Just like this hind, as it grows older, the horns grow larger. The tzaddikim also, as they pray, the longer they pray, the more their prayer is heard. So what does that have to do with ayelas shachar? What is the shachar? So we're saying over here, we're retranslating the word shachar, that shachar actually means tefillah. Rashi quotes a pasuk in Yeshaya. Ruchi b'kirbei ashachrecha. So it's lamnatech al tefillah, that's which is like ayelas, that as long as it continues, it sprouts out new things. It gets answered. Okay, shachtu asa tamid. They shachted the carbon tamid. There's a problem in the Mishnah. When the Mishnah is not so clear what's going on. We said the fellow that's on the roof says Barkai until Chevron. They say yes. Why do you have to do this? Because one time they made a mistake, and then the Mishnah goes on and says they shechted the tamid and they brought it to the Beis HaShreifa. And it goes on and it says they brought the Kayin Gadol down to the Beis HaTfilah. Now, what happened there? So, Amos, when was this story that they shechted the tamid and they brought the Kayin Gadol to the Beis? If it was a regular day, why do they have to bring a Kayin Gadol to the? What does the Kayin Gadol have to do? Everyone was doing it. Any Kayin. You must be talking about that it was Yom Kippur. So now the Gemara asks a scientific question. Is there the light of the moon on Yom Kippur, which is towards the beginning of the month, the first half of the month? Would that be that confusing to the sun? They think that, when should it be? It rises in the east. Yeah, I'm not sure there's science here, but the Gemara is asking that it doesn't work out. So the Gemara says, Hachi Kamar. Then Hayridu Kain Gadol Beis HaTfilah. Since they instituted this because of what could happen other days of the year, then we have no problem on Yom Kippur once he makes that announcement. We have it all fixed. So now the Kain Gadol can go right down to, we have everything resolved already because we've instituted this because of other times. Tani Avu the Rabavin, Leizer Bilvad Amarola, Af Malika Saifa Kmitzas Mincha Balayla Tisarif. If the carbon tamid is shechted before dawn, then it becomes puzzle. So Rabbi Avin, Avu the Rabavin says, not only this, but if you do the malika on a bird at night, or if you do kmitza, the meal offering, the flour offering, if you take it at night, you have to burn it. It's in the wrong time. The Gemara says, I understand when it comes to the bird, well, you can't give its life back. But when it comes to the flour, you took it out and it was the wrong time. So throw it back in. If it's invalid, it's invalid. Just do it again. Press the reset and you redo it. There's nothing wrong. So who Tani Lavu Amarla? So he answers this. Who was asking the question? It looks like Abu Rav Avin was asking. He answers, There's a problem. You can't just reset. You can't just redo it. Throw it back in. The problem is that it becomes sanctified. It becomes consecrated. And what you did, even though it's invalid, but it's still something was done. Something was done. There's a record of that. And you can't just throw it back in. Meisvei, they ask a question. Ze'aklal, this is the rule. Anything that's brought by day becomes consecrated if you do it by day. Kolakarav balayla, kadosh balayla. Anything that's brought at night could be also consecrated by night. Everything that's brought by day or by night. Then it could be by day or by night. We're talking about the limbs or the or other things that could be brought, I guess. Minchas Nesachim says it was brought even at night. Katani Mias. Whatever the case is, if it's supposed to be brought by day, then it's only consecrated by day. Now, this is a big problem for the father of Ravavin, because B'yomin B'layla night, light. It's only by day, not by night. What are you telling me? That if I did Kmitza by night, I can't redo it? I have a Mishnah that says that you did nothing. It's not consecrated. So the Gemara answers, Dilmeina Kadosh Likarav Aval Kadosh Lipasel. Maybe what that Mishnah means is that it's not consecrated to be able to offer it, but it's consecrated enough that it's invalid. Masav Reb Zera. Sider esalechem, besabazichim achar Shabbos, Victor sabazichim b'Shabbos. You know what? Let's leave the massive. I don't want to rush it. I want people should be able to go down. Okay, let's leave the massive. We'll do that tomorrow. That's just Hashem. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day, everyone.